Hi everybody and welcome to Lawyers Rock. Today I thought I'd tackle a subject that I think is going to appeal to a lot of people. Whether you're a television producer, an indie filmmaker, or an online content creator. Everyone seems to be interested in when fair use applies, meaning they don't have to get something cleared. Now it's a very tricky subject because fair use is really saying there is an infringement, but there's an exception because of a fair use concept. So we'll go through some of the guidelines and hopefully after this video you'll have a better understanding. So let's rock. Okay, before we jump into fair use, I want to make sure it's clear. You really should try to clear as much as you can in your content. You should try to get agreements, releases, anything that's going to allow you to legally show that you have all the rights to the content. I don't want you saying, oh, some lawyer on YouTube said I don't have to clear anything. That's not what fair use is. Fair use is almost a fallback after you go back and you see that you may need to clear something, but then you may want to go through fair use analysis to see if you really have to. And it's a judgment call, so keep that in mind. Okay, now I've said my disclaimer. So let's jump into copyright fair use. When you're talking about copyrights, you're talking about things like the script, dialogue, when you're shooting a scene, what does the scene design look like? Maybe there might be artwork, pre-existing video clips, and of course the music that you hear in the background. As you see here, there is a recognizable fair use in the Copyright Act. You just have to meet certain criteria, and it's determined on a case-by-case basis. Basically, the criteria set forth in 4 factors. The first one being the purpose and character of the use. Is it a commercial use or are you using it for like educational purposes? Educational purposes are more fair use. The nature of your use. How are you using this? Are you using it to highlight it or is it more like background? Background is going to be more fair use. How much of the work are you using? Are you using the entire work? Or are you using like the heart of the work, like the famous quotes or the catchy hook? That's a consideration. The less substantial you're using, the more it could be fair use. And the effect on the potential market for the value of the original work. So is somebody going to go out and buy your video that has a song in it versus buying the song itself, or is this not going to be competing in the same market? These are the factors you have to satisfy to claim fair use. Now let's talk about an area that's a little more clear-cut than copyright. Trademarks. Now how trademark fair use works generally is it follows a 2-part test. And it's called the Rogers test. It comes from a big case. And to make it easier, let me turn it around. As long as you have artistic relevance, and you're not misleading as to the source of the trademark. For instance, if you have a trademark on a product, you're not saying it was manufactured by someone else, then you should be okay. For example, if you're shooting a scene in a bar and you pan and you come across some labels of alcohol behind the bar, that's artistic relevance. You're showing that you're in a bar, so that should qualify. And as long as you're not misleading and saying that a certain alcohol is produced by someone other than who it's produced by, then you have a good argument for fair use. And an area that's a little harder to dissect, right of publicity. Now, right of publicity as it relates to fair use, it can get a little tricky because there are different states with different laws for rights of publicity, and you have to fit these elements within, the legal framework of that state. Another note on fair use for right publicity is you're usually trying to find a way to show a celebrity in your project. That's usually what people are trying to do with this analysis. That's a problem because the element number 4 about damages, a celebrity is going to be damaged if you use them for free because they're used to being used for money. So it usually doesn't work in those cases. Now, if you're dealing with a non-celebrity, then it's much easier. And you can go through the analysis. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you. Again, I don't think you should analyze these things on your own. You should probably take them to your attorney so you can determine what is and what isn't fair use. But at least now you recognize what the situations are.